Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now we are delighted once again to welcome Engineer Mostafa Naggari, the Deputy Chairman of the Egyptian Exporters Association. Once again, good afternoon to you, Engineer Mostafa.
Good afternoon to you.
Apologies for the bad connection. Now, as you were saying before we lost our connection, we were speaking about strategic markets, and you were saying that Europe the European Union is a very important export market for Egypt.
Yes, we consider the European Union is our partner in the trade.
Yes.
And we have seen that nowadays we have a problem of the income of the foreign currencies, and we have been always pointing that the sectors which are supporting the foreign currency to Egypt is exports and the Suez Canal, the Egyptian abroad transfers, and international investments. So we have seen, according to the last 3 years, due to the economical crisis and the political crisis everywhere, that the exports was the only existing sustainable source of the foreign currencies.
Right.
That's why we always see that the government of Egypt is supporting exports, and due to the crisis, we mentioned that we have increased slightly in 2023 our exports, the non-petroleum exports, year by year compared with 2022. And as we always see that the competitiveness in Europe is suffering a lot according to the high prices of power and the high cost of labors, and the drought as well, if we talk about agriculture sector. That's why Europe is always relying on Egypt to fulfill their requirements, mainly in the exports of agri-sector and the industrial engineering.
Right. Engineer Mostafa, we've seen Egypt and the United Kingdom have signed a memorandum of understanding to provide technical support for Egypt to provide the required capabilities to boost reforms that involve the private sector, and the memorandums of understandings are at about 25 million euros and are assigned to boost Egypt's economic development. What is the importance of enhancing international collaboration and cooperation like this to support the Egyptian economy and increase its exports?
The technical support between Egypt and Europe have never stopped, and we see that always there is trials to increase the sustainability of production and export from Egypt to Europe.
Yes.
And we know that we are facing a lot of agreements which were signed lately in Europe. One of these is the Green Agreement, which is leading the society of the era to come to zero carbon emission by 2050.
Yes.
And of course, this is one of the main agreements which Egypt is having a benefit, because we have to transform our industries and our agriculture to production which decrease the emission of carbon to come with the international measurements. But Egypt is always having a lead in that, and we see that always foreign investors are investing in the green hydrogen if we are focusing on this sector. And always we are discussing about the low carbon cards which can be given to each factory to try to evaluate the carbon emissions, which is really will give Egypt upper hand always to be in the European market as one of the main exporters in several items.
Absolutely. Right. Engineer Mostafa, of course, Egypt aims to formulate a strategic plan to gain further access to more markets and enhance the competitiveness of Egyptian products worldwide. How can this contribute to the target that they hope to reach of $100 billion in exports annually?
What we are focusing at the time being is to try to increase the revenue of each unit of exports. So if we are talking about agriculture sector, if we say that, we always have to evaluate the revenue and the tonnage which was exported. And that's why the sector of agriculture is trying to increase the revenues by looking for new markets and to try to search for new markets who can pay more and higher value for our products. On the other side, we are trying to implement new varieties which of vegetables and fruits, which will have a higher value than what we all know that main our exports is citrus and potatoes and onions. On this sector, I have to say that the Ministry of Transport have signed with the government of Italy for a fast boat serving specifically the Egyptian exports and imports from Damietta to Trieste in Italy. And this will give a chance for exports of higher value commodities to enter Europe fast and to be delivered by inland transport to everywhere in Europe. So we always see that the government is trying to solve whatever obstacles to try to increase the value of the Egyptian exports by either logistics or by opening new markets, which really most of the export council are trying to open through protocols, and we have seen that we have reached almost north and west and east and south. We are approaching Japan, and the other side we are increasing our export to U.S.
Yes.
So this is really, we have to mention that this is the effort of the Commercial International Service and the Ministry of Industry and Trade.
Absolutely. Now, Engineer Mostafa, we've also seen the base of the financing banks being expanded recently to reach over 8 banks. What is the role of, financial institutions like national banks in supporting micro and macro, medium as well enterprises to raise the financial ceiling of some of these institutions?
We have to mention that the SMEs is the great power of Egypt.
Yes.
As we mentioned that we are all working to try to gather small and medium sectors in a higher entities which might have a better competitiveness. So the government is always giving models of how small can join together and to be in one unity which can be having a better competitiveness. And this is what we all trying to do in several activities like agriculture, like industry, that even in the international fairs, we are attracting the SMEs to join in one post and to work together because, this is the way we started all. We started small and then we have became medium, and many of us are now leading the export sector in Egypt.
Absolutely right. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Engineer Mostafa Naggari, the Deputy Chairman of the Egyptian Exporters Association. Thank you very much, sir, for all your time and your insight and for joining us on today's edition of Cairo Local Time. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break and we'll be back. Do stay tuned.